The chandelier above the marble hall shimmered like gold, reflecting the smug grin of Brandon, a billionaire who loved making others feel small. In front of him stood Deshaun, a calm black engineer in his late 60s, wearing a worn-out brown jacket and holding his toolbox as if it carried a lifetime of stories. "Tell you what," Brandon sneered, loud enough for everyone at the party to hear. "If you can fix the heating system in this mansion before my guests finish dinner, I'll give you the mansion." The crowd gasped, then laughed, the kind of laughter that doesn't come from humor, but from cruelty. A few guests pulled out their phones, already recording. Brandon smirked. "Don't worry, folks. Let's make this fair. The thing's been dead for years. 5 top engineers couldn't fix it. Maybe our black genius here will perform a miracle." Deshaun didn't respond. He just looked at the system from a distance, eyes sharp, calm, scanning every detail like a man reading a familiar book. His silence unnerved a few people, but Brandon's arrogance only grew. "Come on, old man," he mocked. "You fixed something like this before? Or are you more of a screwdriver philosopher?" The guests laughed again, but one woman, Imani, Deshaun's niece, watched from the corner, her hands clenched. She had worked for Brandon's company for 3 years and knew exactly what kind of man he was. Powerful, privileged, and dangerously proud. Deshaun finally spoke. His tone was steady, unbothered. "Sir, do you keep the original schematics of the system?" The billionaire chuckled. "Schematics? You think I stored junk from the 70s? This mansion has everything, except patience for useless questions." The laughter returned, louder this time. Deshaun quietly knelt beside the panel, brushed off the dust, and began removing the corroded cover. The sound of his tools echoed through the silent room. Brandon leaned closer to his friends. "Watch him fail," he whispered, grinning. "I could use another viral clip." The camera flashes caught the sweat on Deshaun's temple, but his eyes never flinched. Every turn of the screwdriver was precise, deliberate, like a man who knew exactly what he was doing. He paused, looked up, and met Brandon's eyes for the first time. "You shouldn't bet what you don't understand." For the first time all night, Brandon's grin faltered. If this already made your blood boil, hit like and subscribe right now, because stories like this are still happening, and the world needs to hear them. Morning sunlight spilled through the cracked blinds of Deshaun's small apartment, landing on a workbench crowded with worn tools and blueprints. The night before, he had stayed up late sketching a custom circuit board for a community robotics club he mentored every weekend. Engineering wasn't just his profession, it was his peace. At 66, Deshaun had spent 4 decades designing heating and energy systems for large U.S. facilities, but discrimination had followed him like a shadow. Promotions lost, credit stolen, meetings where his ideas were repeated by younger white engineers and suddenly praised. He had learned to survive by letting his work speak louder than his anger. That afternoon, Imani called. "Uncle, you sure you're okay working for that man again?" "I'll be fine," he said quietly. Sometimes the best way to expose arrogance is to let it speak for itself. Outside, Brandon's mansion loomed over the city. White pillars, glass floors, imported Italian marble. It wasn't just a house. It was a symbol of unchecked ego. Deshaun arrived in his old pickup, its faded paint looking out of place among the Ferraris and black SUVs parked outside. Staff glanced at him with mild curiosity, as though wondering how someone like him had passed the gates. Inside, the laughter from last night still echoed in his mind. Brandon had humiliated him in front of investors, politicians, and cameras. But Deshaun's calm wasn't weakness, it was strategy. He knew arrogance always left fingerprints, technical, moral, or both. And today, he intended to find them. Imani met him by the side entrance, her voice low. He's bragging again. Said, "You're coming back to finish your comedy act." Deshaun smiled faintly. "Then let's give him a show worth remembering." As he walked through the vast hall, portraits of white industrialists lined the walls, men Brandon idolized. Each one, he claimed, had built America. Deshaun stopped for a moment, studying their painted eyes. Build America, he thought, but who kept it running? He reached the control room where the system's heart lay hidden behind layers of marble. His fingers grazed a metal panel. Beneath the dust, he saw something no one else had noticed, A mismatch of components, wrong screws, deliberate tampering. For the first time, he realized this wasn't a broken system. Someone had made sure it would never run again. The next afternoon, Brandon decided to make the humiliation public again. He invited friends, business partners, and a few local journalists to witness history. The ballroom filled with polished shoes, champagne glasses, and the low hum of elitist laughter. Deshaun walked in quietly, toolbox in hand. Every eye turned toward him. Brandon raised his voice so everyone could hear. "Our engineer is back. Maybe this time he'll remember which end of the wrench to hold." The guests laughed. Someone whispered, "Why does he even try?" Deshaun ignored them. He set his toolbox down and opened the control panel he'd examined the night before. The wires told a story no one else had cared to read. Some connections had been switched deliberately, causing short circuits, sabotage, not decay. His mind raced through schematics and old blueprints he'd memorized decades ago. Brandon leaned against a grand piano, swirling his drink. "You know, persistence is adorable at your age. Maybe after this, I'll have you fix my yacht too." The laughter stung, but Deshaun stayed composed. Every click of his screwdriver echoed louder than their mockery. A young journalist moved closer, intrigued. "Sir, do you think you can really fix it?" Deshaun didn't look up. "I don't fix lies," he said softly. "I reveal them." The room quieted slightly, just enough for his words to sink in. From the corner, Imani stood frozen, phone in hand, recording everything. Brandon noticed and smirked. "Oh, capture another failure for your scrapbook?" But her camera didn't waver. She had seen that look in her uncle's eyes before, years ago, when corporate executives had tried to take credit for his designs. The same calm before revelation. Deshaun pulled one last panel free and stopped. Behind the metal plate was a signature component, an imported regulator that didn't belong in that system at all. It bore the logo of Brandon's private company. The old man straightened slowly. "Interesting," he murmured, mostly to himself. "The wrong part in the right place. Someone wanted this to break." Brandon rolled his eyes. "Oh, please, don't turn this into a conspiracy. You people always..." He didn't finish. The room had gone dead silent. Everyone could see Deshaun holding the part up under the chandelier light. It glinted with truth. For the first time, laughter had nowhere to hide. If this happened right in front of you, what would you do? Tell me in the comments. I read every one. And if you want justice as much as I do, hit subscribe. The silence in the mansion grew heavy, the kind that presses on the chest. Brandon's smirk faltered for a second before he forced out a laugh. "You're saying I sabotaged my own system? Be serious, old man." Deshaun didn't answer. He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out an old digital tester, the kind no one had used in 20 years. He clipped 2 probes onto the wires, and the small screen flickered to life, showing readings that shouldn't exist. The crowd leaned in. "This line was rerouted," Deshaun said quietly. "Not broken, redirected. Someone wanted to fail when the power load reached peak level." Brandon's voice cracked. "You're guessing." Deshaun turned the small regulator in his hand, exposing a faint engraving near the base. "Am I?" he asked. The letters spelled BR Industries, Brandon's company name. Gasps filled the room. Someone dropped a glass. The sound shattered the stillness. Imani stepped forward. "Uncle, are you saying he..." "Yes," Deshaun said calmly, without even looking at her. "This part wasn't installed incorrectly. It was placed here on purpose." Brandon's face turned pale. "You think I'd waste my time on that ancient system? I have better things to..." Deshaun interrupted gently. "You'd be surprised what people do to make their insurance claims sound believable." Every head in the room snapped toward Brandon. The journalist instinctively started recording. A murmur ran through the crowd. Suspicion, disbelief, the scent of scandal in the air. Brandon's charm cracked into anger. "You're accusing me of fraud in my own house? You think you can walk in here and..." Deshaun stood. The years seemed to fall away from his shoulders. "I've spent 40 years reading systems like people read books. Wires don't lie. Circuits remember. He placed the corrupted component gently on the marble table. You call this impossible to fix, but it's not broken. It's betrayed. Brandon's hand twitched. He wanted to speak, but nothing came out. The same audience that had laughed before now stared at him like witnesses. Deshawn turned away, his voice low. You said I couldn't make it, Ron. He pressed a switch. The mansion's lights flickered, then glowed brighter than they had in years. The room erupted in disbelief. Guests gasped as the chandeliers hummed back to life, bathing the marble hall in golden light. For a long moment, no one spoke. The silence was deafening, a mix of awe and guilt, as if the mansion itself had come alive to expose its master. Brandon froze where he stood, his hand still gripping the glass that no longer seemed to matter. His voice trembled. That's impossible. It hasn't worked in 10 years. Deshawn turned, wiping the dust from his hands. That's because you never wanted it to, he said quietly. You didn't pay me to fix something broken. You paid me to take the blame for what you destroyed. A few guests exchanged looks. The young journalist, still recording, whispered, Is he saying it was insurance fraud? Imani's eyes widened. He is. Deshawn walked toward the regulator he had placed on the table. This part doesn't fail naturally. It overheats only when rewired to bypass the safety fuse. That's what caused the burn marks on the control board. Someone needed proof of system failure to claim damages. Brandon tried to steady his tone. Do you have any idea who you're talking to? Yes, Deshawn replied. A man who confuses wealth with wisdom. The words cut deeper than Brandon expected. He looked around, searching for someone to back him up, but every familiar face had turned into a stranger. The investors, the journalists, even the security team were frozen in shock. Enough of this nonsense. Brandon snapped. Get out of my house. Deshawn didn't move. He opened his phone, tapped a few buttons, and turned the screen toward him. I've already sent the readings and footage to the State Energy Commission, he said evenly, and to the insurance bureau that approved your last $2 million claims. The billionaire's glass slipped from his hand and shattered. Imani stepped beside her uncle, voice trembling but steady. You tried to humiliate him in front of everyone. Now the world's going to see who the real fraud is. Cameras flashed. Guests began filming again, but not for entertainment this time. For evidence. Deshawn looked up at the restored ceiling lights and whispered, Every lie leaves a current. Eventually, it burns its way out. The story spread faster than Brandon could react. Within hours, snippets of the confrontation flooded social media. Billionaire exposed by retired black engineer. Every platform replayed the same moment. Deshawn flipping the switch and the mansion roaring back to life. By the next morning, news vans lined the gates of Brandon's estate. The same people who had once cheered his arrogance now questioned his integrity. Reporters shouted questions over the fence. Did you commit insurance fraud? Are you facing charges? But Brandon refused to come out. Meanwhile, Deshawn sat quietly at a small diner across town, coffee cooling beside him. Imani scrolled through her phone, reading headlines aloud. Uncle, look. The Energy Commission confirmed your report. They're opening a criminal investigation. Deshawn nodded slowly. The truth always runs on its own current. Once it starts, you can't stop it. 2 days later, FBI agents arrived at Brandon's mansion with warrants. The investigation uncovered multiple false claims, systems intentionally sabotaged for payouts. His company accounts were frozen. His name splashed across national news. The man who once mocked others now hid behind tinted glass, begging his lawyers to make it disappear. In the following weeks, Deshawn was invited to testify before the commission. He wore the same brown jacket, polished his old shoes, and spoke with the calm precision that had humiliated his abuser. He didn't gloat. He didn't raise his voice. He simply explained how greed had turned brilliance into corruption, how racism had blinded men to the dignity standing right in front of them. The courtroom fell silent as he concluded. You can steal money, you can steal credit, but you can't steal truth. It always finds the power line back to justice. When the verdict came, Brandon was sentenced to several years in federal prison for fraud and obstruction. His empire crumbled overnight. Investors fled. Properties were seized. His mansion, once a monument to power, was sold to pay restitution. Imani looked at her uncle as cameras flashed outside the courthouse. "You didn't just fix a system," she whispered. "You fixed the story they tell about us." Deshawn smiled softly. "No, child, I just reminded them broken things can still run if someone cares enough to repair them right." Weeks turned into months, and the story of the black engineer who humbled a billionaire became a national symbol of dignity and truth. Every news outlet replayed the clip, Deshawn standing calm under the chandelier light, while the mansion roared back to life. For millions, it wasn't just about a heating system. It was about justice finally turning its gaze toward the right man. Ferris University invited Deshawn to speak about ethics in engineering. When he arrived, hundreds of young students, black, white, Latino, stood to applaud him. He looked humbled, adjusting his worn jacket as he took the stage. "I'm not a hero," he began softly. "I'm just proof that patience and knowledge still matter. The world doesn't need louder voices. It needs honest ones." In the front row sat Imani, tears shining in her eyes. She had left Brandon's company and started her own small engineering consultancy, built on fairness and integrity. The first thing she did was hire 2 interns from underprivileged communities, saying, "My uncle taught me, teach what you fix." Meanwhile, the authorities converted part of the confiscated mansion funds into a new foundation, the Deshawn Grant for Technical Education, helping young black students pursue engineering careers without debt. Reporters tried to get Deshawn's reaction, but he never sought the spotlight. He just said, "If it helps someone get a start I never had, that's enough." One evening, as the sun dipped below the skyline, Deshawn sat in his small workshop, surrounded by students eager to learn. "Remember," he told them, "machines aren't the only things that fail when wires cross. People do too. So when you fix something, fix it completely, inside and out." The lights flickered above, the same model he'd repaired months ago. He smiled at the sound, that soft electric hum that once began everything. Imani handed him a framed newspaper clipping with the headline, "Integrity Wins." She grinned. "You should hang this, Uncle." He chuckled. "No need. I'd rather hang a blueprint for what's next." He turned back to the students, the hum of tools filling the air. "Now, who's ready to build something honest? If you believe this should never happen again, share this now. And to my USA, UK, and Canadian viewers, your voice is power. Use it